Last year, one of my friends called me up. She had just watched the first episode of a new Netflix series called Alias Grace, based on a Margaret Atwood novel. In the scenography, she had recognized a bunch of Danish artworks, all stemming from SMK, the National Gallery of Art in Copenhagen, where I work. The images had been downloaded, printed, and fitted into heavy gilded frames to make them appear like original old masterpieces. So, how had paintings from a tiny country like Denmark wound up in a TV series taking place in Canada? The short answer is open licensing. Since 2012, SMK has shared its collection for free, with no restrictions whatsoever, in high resolution for all to use. So my initial reaction to this was, wow, it works. When we set art free, people out there find ways to use it beyond our wildest imagination. The next day, a journalist called me up from a national newspaper. He knew of our open policy, but he wanted to know if we seriously thought it was okay that a commercial giant like Netflix used our artworks without seeking permission and without paying a fee. Wasn't that a missed opportunity? But to his surprise, I replied, this is in full accordance with our image policy. We want to lose control. Is that a way to run a museum? Is it a proper context for our artworks to pop up in? And shouldn't a big commercial company like Netflix pay for using the images? They certainly could afford it. As an art historian and museum professional, I've been brought up to think of myself as a gatekeeper. But through working with opening up the collection of the SMK, I've come to trust in the public domain, in the concept of a shared commons that we all have a share in. So, what do we mean by public domain? And what exactly happens when an artwork goes from being a physical object in a museum gallery or in a storage room to a digital object online? A key obligation for the museum is to keep a registry of our collection. Each artwork should have an individual record saying who made it, when it was made, what it's made of, when it was acquired, etc., accompanied by a nice quality image of the artwork. This is a vital tool for museum professionals in their research and curatorial work. And with a collection of 250,000 artworks, like we have at SMK, you need a system to find your way around. But it's when we put the data online that the potential really explodes. Then it becomes a highly useful resource for people outside the museum who want to use it for their own purposes. Think of teachers looking for new learning materials or designers looking for new inspiration. But the thing is, traditionally, museums have kept their data and images to themselves, locked up, away from the general public. And that goes for SMK too. We were acting as gatekeepers. But the fact of the matter is that the majority of our collection is so old that all copyright has expired. That happens 70 years after the artist passed away. Then the artworks go into the public domain, which is the sum of all human creative and intellectual effort. And it actually is something that belongs to all of us. We all have not only permission, but the right to use the public domain. Copyright, you can say, is a temporary exception to the public domain, or as Dutch lawyer Paul Tormans has said, copyright is like a little coral reef jutting up from the ocean of public domain. So there's actually incredible potential in liberating the parts of our collections that's in the public domain. For a number of years, I've lived and worked by the words, sharing is caring. To share digitized cultural heritage is a palpable way to care about it. When we allow people to not only look at, but grab and touch and remix and make their own artworks that are normally behind safety glass and restrictive distances, it's super powerful. Opening up our collections is a way to safeguard our relevance and value. Because when you can touch and rework art, you instinctively feel like it belongs to you too. And that which you own, you'll care more about. Sharing is Caring is the name of a conference I started in 2011. It's the title of a book I published in 2014, but it's more than a conference and a book. It's a movement and a mindset. Cultural heritage in museums can feel alien, but opening up can be a key to change. Listen what a high school student said after she had participated in a workshop remixing SMK artworks in the public domain. It's strange in a way, because those old artworks have always felt sacred almost. But art changes character when you can touch it with your own hands. You're able to look at it up close. It means a lot to be able to hold the art between your hands and touch it. That's just one anecdote. But think of the impact you can have if thousands or tens of thousands, even hundreds of thousands of people can grab and touch and use those old artworks. That's what's happening on Wikipedia since we opened up our collection. As I'm sure most of you know, Wikipedia is an open encyclopedia. That means that all of the material you find there is openly licensed, and you all have permission to reuse it for your own purposes. That also means that the volunteer editors all over the world who create this knowledge resource for all of us, they rely on openly licensed content to write and illustrate and enrich knowledge there. We have an internet overflowing with inferior reproductions of artworks. So more often than not, Wikipedians have to settle for using those because the good reproductions are kept in locked databases by the museums. I think that's a missed opportunity. Museums need to fight to stay relevant in a reality where competition does not come from other museums or cultural institutions in the classical sense. It comes from Netflix and YouTube and other online media grabbing our attention extremely effectively. How can museums play a role in the attention economy of the internet? That's a big question. And of course, it calls for a comprehensive investigation. But the key message I want you to go away with today is that one of the answers is to open up. Opening up means entering the ecosystem of the web. It means letting go of control. But it also means that your collection will be discovered and used and enjoyed by a heck of a lot more people than the usual suspects who always go to museums. If your images are on Wikipedia, they will rank high in Google search because Google favors websites that attract a lot of traffic. Last year, we tracked 35 million page views with SMK images on Wikipedia. We could never hope to have that kind of traffic on our own website, let alone to our physical museum. So, what's a page view worth, you might ask? Is it as significant as the personal encounter with the original artwork in physical space? The classic approach, of course, has it that the physical experience always wins. It's richer, it's more authentic. But people are different. Not everyone loves going to the museum. But art can be meaningful in other forms and contexts too. Think what open images can do in classrooms, in news media. Think of what you could use them for. And even if everybody wanted to come to my museum, there are many, many people in the world who will never have the opportunity to visit. We have 300,000 visitors a year. There are 7 billion citizens in the world. That's a lot of people we're never going to welcome to our museum. But there are 3 billion people online. And with our open collection, we have a chance to reach out and offer meaningful art experiences to them. That's why, when we discovered that SMK artworks were being used in the scenography of Alia's Grace, we went and added detailed information about those artworks to the Wikipedia article about the TV series. Because everybody goes to look for information on Wikipedia, and that's why we believe that it's probably the best option for us to be present there if we want to help people discover what we hold in our collections. And very likely, that can be a first touch point for someone who never heard of SMK or Danish art before. Through open licensing, we're able to tell you that the artworks belong to you too, and that you can use them for anything you can dream of. Your imagination is the only limit